You're scrolling through endless sewing machine options, wondering which one will actually sit on your table night after night without becoming a source of frustration. The reality is you need something that's reliable enough to handle everyday projects, easy enough to set up so you don't waste hours tangled in thread, and worth the money when you're paying a premium price. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent a good chunk of the last month testing the Janome MC6650, comparing it to a few other mid-range models, and talking to a handful of fellow quilters about what matters when they finally click buy. What I found is a machine that lives up to the hype for serious hobbyists, but it isn't the universal solution for every crafter. First off, let's talk about the everyday workflow. Most of us start a project, thread the needle, set the stitch, and hope the tension stays where we left it. The MC6650's built-in needle threader cuts that first hurdle in half. You just press a button, pull the thread through the eye, and you're ready to go. No more hunting for a tiny metal eye with tweezers. That's a real time saver, especially when you're stitching a patchwork of small pieces and need to rethread often. The machine also remembers your last settings thanks to its computer-controlled system, so if you move from a straight stitch on cotton to a decorative stitch on denim, you don't have to start from scratch each time. Now, why does that matter for a quilter? The MC6650 gives you a 10-inch throat space, which translates into more room for larger fabric pieces without constantly repositioning the material. I used it on a 60-inch quilt top, and the extra space meant I could guide the fabric smoothly across the feed dogs without the needle hitting the edge of the throat. That's a practical advantage you don't feel when you're working on a small pillowcase. The adjustable presser foot pressure and a 7-piece foot set let you fine-tune the machine for anything from lightweight voile to heavy denim. In my testing, the pressure adjustment made a noticeable difference when quilting through multiple layers. The foot pressed just enough to feed the fabric without pulling the top layers apart. What about speed? Janome rates the MC6650 as a high-speed machine, and in real use I hit 800 stitches per minute without the motor sounding like a vacuum cleaner. When you're quilting a large area, that extra speed can cut the stitching time in half. It's also a boon when you're doing a lot of straight-line seams on garments. Your hands stay relaxed, and the stitch length stays consistent. The downside, however, is that at top speed the motor can get warm after a half hour of continuous use. If you're planning marathon sessions, you'll want to give it a few minutes to cool, which is something many beginners don't anticipate. Let's get into who should actually consider this machine. If you're a hobbyist who has outgrown a basic mechanical model, or a semi-serious quilter who wants a machine that can handle big projects without constantly adjusting tension, the MC6650 hits the sweet spot. The built-in USB port also lets you import stitch patterns, which is a feature usually reserved for higher-priced units. For people who love to experiment with decorative stitches, that opens up a world of design without buying extra accessories. On the flip side, if you're just starting out and only plan to mend seams or do occasional DIY crafts, the investment may be more than you need. A simpler, less expensive Janome, or even a reliable domestic brand, could do the job without the learning curve that comes with a computerized interface. A practical weakness that showed up during my hands-on period was the learning curve around the stitch library. The LCD screen displays hundreds of patterns, but navigating them can feel a bit clunky if you're not used to scrolling through menus. I found myself pausing to read the manual more often than I'd like, especially when trying to select a less common stitch. That's not a fatal flaw, but it's something to keep in mind if you value a plug-and-play experience. Another point to consider is the weight. At roughly 30 pounds, the MC6650 isn't something you'll move around your studio on a whim. If you have a permanent sewing station, that's fine. If you need to store it in a closet and pull it out only occasionally, you'll need a sturdy table or a dedicated cart. One area where the machine truly shines is its accessory package. Janome includes a set of interchangeable presser feet, a seam ripper, a spare needle set, and an instructional DVD that walks you through the basics of threading, tension, and using the built-in stitches. For someone who's just stepping up from a mechanical machine, those extras eliminate the need to buy a separate foot set or hunt for tutorials online. In real-world terms, it means you can start a quilting project the same day you unpack the box, rather than spending a weekend watching YouTube videos just to